Welcome back to RTD's Garage, and today we have a Weed Eater brand Hedge trimmer, and we're going to try to get her going again. This one's a GHT-22 with a 22-inch cutter and USA-made craftsmanship. This was back in the days when budget lawn equipment was still mostly built to a quality specification and even was made to compete with higher-end brands to offer more affordable yet capable machine to get the job done. These old Weed Eater brands are simple and cost-effective to work on, and have always given me the best luck when it comes to having the most neglect, but giving promising results of wanting to come back to work. So let's throw some starting fluid in there. Let's ensure that our kill switch is flipped to the on position, and see if she's worth the work. Looks like we got some good news. Let's keep on going. Just a screwdriver and a 5/32 Allen bit is needed to take these two carb bolts out of the way. Then let's get this air filter off and disconnect the carburetor from the throttle cable. Now let's inspect the piston and cylinder. I don't see any scoring or bad signs of wear. Piston ring has a tad of carbon, but it's no cause of concern. This is probably one of the best motors I've seen for its age. Wow, this carb is nice and dusty. Still seems to be in good shape though. We'll stick a new primer bulb on there. Looks like a Walbro carburetor. If I was to guess, I'd say this is probably the original one that went to it. This was back in the day when this was the only way to get help with your equipment. I wouldn't call them now though, you'd probably get a hold of a ghost or something. These lines aren't looking the best, so they'll probably need replacing. Let's go ahead and take this primer bulb plate off, throw away the old one, and get ourselves a new one, and put it back into place. Now we'll line up the holes for the plate, and then fit it back onto the grooves on the carburetor, and screw it all back down. Let's see if this carb seems to work now. I'm not really hearing a vacuum. So let's look at the check valve side of the carb. Underneath our check valves shows a jet without a screen. See some varnish buildup too. So now let's do some carb cleaner and compressed air. And looking a lot cleaner. No more varnish. Speaking of clean, there we go. That looks a lot better. Now let's go ahead and get a parts carburetor off of another machine to borrow that filter screen. If I'm not mistaken, this came off of a Boland's BL110 trimmer. So we're going to take the screen off of this carburetor and stick it on our other carb. Here's a little screen. We'll first just press it in as best as we can. Then fit it to form with the flathead screwdriver. With the carb back together and installed, let's see if we can pull some fuel through it before we continue. So I've got this little bit of line here and a splice installed. So time to see if she works. I just put in some fresh fuel, so it ought to start pulling up in there. Well, no fuel pulled up in there, and I still don't hear any vacuum. Something has got to be cracked or missing. Looks like the diaphragm is cracked, so we'll have to replace it. This should help, but I don't think that's what's causing our issue. Here's what we're missing: the primer bulb valve. These open and close accordingly to when the bulb is pressed to pull in fuel and get rid of the excess to prevent flooding. Let's get that bulb off. Take the valve and do your best to seat it into the assembly. You have to fight with it a little bit to get it in there properly. There we go. Now let's give it a shot. But before we do that, it's time to address these crusty and dusty lines. They've ran their course. We'll go with some Tygon upgraded lines. For now, let's go ahead and slap the carburetor on. And quickly, let's take a look at this gear drive system underneath. These always fascinate me. Without a doubt, it's going to need some new grease. Let's get this cutter bar out of the way. Could probably use some oiling also. So here's a look before and after. It's cleaned up fairly well. Say should be good to go for many more seasons of cutting. Real quickly, I want to test and make sure our cutter blade is free along the blade in place. Looks fine to me. Let's go ahead and seal her back up. Okay, enough distractions. These two bolts here can be removed to expose the rest of our fuel lines. One for source and one for the return. Check these out. Much better. Remember, the source line reaches to the bottom, use the filter. The other only goes an inch in. Checking our primer bulb here. And looks like we are pulling in fuel. Let's double check. Make sure we've got plenty of fresh fuel in there. And now it's time for the most fun part of all. The test start. Well, today another one lives. If you believe in a DIY mentality or enjoy this type of stuff, leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more. And thank you for watching RTD's Garage. Have a blessed day.